Hello guys, my name is Aleksandar Judovic from Creative Lab Workshop, and today I'm going to share with you a little tutorial about how you can create some simple parallax presentation inside the After Effects. So we will be creating something like this. Okay, so let's start working. First, we will create new composition. Name it Simple Parallax Presentation. It will be 1080p resolution and it will be length of 50 seconds. Okay, now this will be our main composition. Now we will create another composition, also 1080p and 30 frames per second, and the length will be 8 seconds. This will be our scene 1. Okay, now first let's create some mask. We will use the shape tool and just draw something like this. Now we will rotate it something like this and maybe scale it and position it here. Okay, now we will select this layer. Let's rename it to mask and then duplicate, mask 2, use Shift and left arrow on the keyboard, select the rectangle and scale it a little bit like this and maybe position it like this. Also, let's change the color so it can be more visible. And now let's duplicate entire shape layer, mask 3, again select the rectangle, arrow key and Shift on the keyboard and change the color to blue. And you can see that these 3 shapes are overlapping and that is just perfect. We'll select mask 3 and go to the double duplicate the mask again, and after that just use arrow key, or you can move it around with the mouse and position it like here. Adjust the color again so this mask can be more visible, and maybe we can scale it a little bit down. Let's close these 4 shapes and duplicate again, mask 5 and move it here. Okay, and let's use mouse to select the rectangle and scale it up so it's fill this empty space here and overlapping with the mask 4. So now we create the mask for this scene. let's save this as, I will save it like this, and let's rename the color to orange. Okay, now the trick is to create some 3D layers from these shapes, and let's see, 2 views. And now we will do the magic, and that is, we will use P on the keyboard to reveal the position options for these layers, and after that we will move this layer through the Z position axis on the space, so we can create some so we will do this like something like this. We will select 1, 2. Basically, we will, every other movement will be further away, like this. Okay, now we will select the mask 2 and use hold Shift when you scale it, so you can maintain the aspect ratio for this shape. Position it like this. Use S key again to maintain. And like you see, through this line, it's matched perfectly. Again. And again, mask 5. Till it aligns with these lines, and after that just move it left so it can fill the entire space on the left. Now if you have some empty spots, just move these other masks so it can overlap each other and fill the empty spaces. Now we have 5 masks, and we create some z-axis arrangement of this mask, and we create the basic form for this effect. Now we select both mask 1, mask 2, mask 3, 4 to 5, and we will now import the images. So I will select 8 images. In this case, use new folder option and name it images, and I will drag these 8 images inside the image folder. Now I will create another folder. Name it Don't Touch, and after that I will put image inside this folder. Now I will create new composition, and I will name it Change Image 1. After that, let me just check. I didn't check. Okay, it's 8 seconds. That's all I need. 8 seconds of this composition, Change Image 1. And after that, I will create new folder. Change Image Here folder, and I will put Change Image 1 inside the Change Image Here folder. And now I will create another folder, comps, and I will put Scene 1 inside the comp folder, and then I will put comp folder inside Don't Touch folder. That way I'll have all these files and compositions clean and all in right places. Now I will go back inside the image 1 and drag and drop it here on the Change Image 1 composition. Then I scale it up, holding Shift to maintain the aspect ratio, and I will position it the way I want it. Now I will close this composition, go back to scene 1 composition, and then open the change image here, use the change image 1 composition and drag and drop it here on the left side. Now we have to do the trick. We will adjust this, we create 3D layer from this composition, and after that we will apply effect, name motion tile, mirror edges 200. That way we extend. Let me show you. If we create camera and like you see, we extend the image, and with the using of the mirror edges, we just create some less noticeable changes between the edges of the image. So let's delete this camera, and when we create this, we will duplicate this and 5 times. Control D on the keyboard, and after that we will position all these images like this. Now we will select all 5 images. Sorry, we will not do that. We will select mask in change 1, and let's change the color first, so we can know that what image belongs to what mask, so we can visibly connect images mask. So we now will see that yellow mask and yellow image is one. Now we will have to select everything, open the P on the keyboard to reveal the position options, and now just click on the Z for the mask and then paste it here. Control V on the keyboard to paste it on the change image 1. Now use this mask and apply the position to the image, change image 1 of this mask. Now use this, copy, paste. Now we have all 5 images in the same Z position as the mask. So now all we have to do is maintain the scale for these 5 images according to each other, and we will do that like selecting all 5 images and then apply alpha mate to them. That means that this image will use the alpha mate from this mask, and this image will use alpha mate from this mask, and so on. So now you have some strange looking preview here, so we must adjust the size for the images. It's very simple, just use the P, and like you see, when we use the P to reveal the position for this image, we will notice that this image has 0 Z space movement, so it's like you see, it's right where it should be. So we will adjust all other images to this position. Like you see, it's maintaining the position of the entire screen. So we will select this one, and like you see, it's a little smaller. So we will use Shift and scale it up. Hold Shift on the keyboard and scale it up until it's aligned with the border of the screen. And after that, we will use again Shift and scale it up until this align too. After that, we will use again Shift and scale up. And after that, we will use Shift and scale up on the last one. And after that, the image should be again visible in just in the right way. So after that, we have created, we will turn this, and we now create mask and image for this composition, this scene 1. Now we have to invite camera in. So we will have to create new camera, and we will have to create some null object that driving this camera. We will, sorry, not do that. We will connect camera parented to the null. So when you move the null, the camera will follow. Like you see, it's now parented to the null object, and we will rename the null to the cam control. Now we know that this null object is actually cam control. Now we will go to 2 seconds, reveal the position to this layer, P key on the keyboard, and we will add the keyframe on the 2 seconds and add the keyframe on the 6 seconds. Now we will move this a little bit, like, let me find the right amount of movement, and then we will move this to the right just a little bit. So when you go from 2 to 6 seconds, this camera have movement, but this movement is just a small movement, so it looks like the image stay still and the edges of these 5 masks are not revealed yet. Now from the 8th second we will move it a little bit more, lots of more, until we move it all away from the screen, and here we will go to the second side until something maybe like this. So it goes like that, and after that it's moved slowly, and after that it's disappeared from the screen. Now if you notice some strange movement, like it stop and going back and back, that's just because the keyframe interpolation is auto Bezier. So we will turn it to linear, and after that we'll hit OK. Now when you move it, you will see something like this. Okay, now it's time to adjust this keyframe, and we will do that. Just select the graph editor, and after that let's separate these values. We will need just one value. Let's turn back to the, and after that all, now we have, sorry, not, we will need exposition, and let's turn the graph editor again, and now like you see we will select these 2 values and hit this easy ease. Now we will adjust this, maybe something like this. So let me explain what this will do. Now like you see, this is the speed of the keyframe animation. So now let's add some speed adjustment for this also. And now like you see, if this is one value and this is another, it will go fast and then it will slow down very slowly, and after that it will continue to move to another value, and then after that it will slowly start to moving, and the faster as we continue to go to the end. And now if you take a look and preview this on the render preview, let me turn the quarter resolution preview because it will go much faster. Okay, and that is the keyframe animation so far. Now, the one last thing in this, it will be to delete this Z position. And now let's try something different, because it will look much interesting if we start from maybe 180. Let's do that. Let's start from there. And then after this, let's select both these Z values and move it something like this. And after disappearing, let's move it more to the inside the Z space. So now, like you see, if you look the camera this way, you have movement, not only the x-axis, you have also the z-axis movement. Let me adjust this. Okay, let me see. Why this is okay, let's render the preview again. Let's just turn one view again, and like you see, it's more interesting this way because you have the movement inside the z-axis and it looks like the image coming toward us. So it's look like more natural this way. Also, we can just increase just a little bit this, so it look more also you can always adjust the mask. So for example, if you see that the inside this position 2 seconds and starting of the entire image, you need some image space here to fill the blank spots, so you can just select the mask for the 5th layer, go to the content rectangle and just mask it, scale it up like this, and maybe move it a little bit on the right side like this. So now, like you see, now image works better and it will have no blank spots on the 2 seconds, because the 2 seconds is starting of the image preview. So all this is transition from one scene to the another, and from the 2 seconds until the 6 seconds is the length of the actual image preview, when you can see the image. And that is it. Actually, I think it looks very good. Let's go further. Now we will create some particles, and let's start by add solid, the same size as the composition. If you are not certain for size, just make comp size and we will name it particles, and we will move it on the top of the all layers and below the camera. Now we have black layer, and I will apply trap code particular to this. I will go to emitter, 500 particles. I will choose box and maybe 5,000 to 5,000 to 5,000 for the space that, and go to position. Center position of this box created in space will be 1,000. Now go to emission extra and pre-run this to 100%. Now the particles, I will lifespan of the 12 second, so it lasts longer. I will choose size of the particles. Let's say, for example, let's stay 5 for now. Size random maybe, I don't know. Let's leave it on 50. And for opacity over life, let's do this. And for the size over life, also let's do that. So it will be less noticeable when particles start appearing and start disappearing. Now we have the particles, and let's set the behavior of these particles. Go to physics, air, and after that, for the wind, let's go to -100, so it have a little bit movement. And velocity, I forgot to turn off the velocity, because if you set it to 0, this particle will stay still. Now, because we have a little bit movement with the wind, we will add more movement with affect position of the particles, and we will set to 250 and maybe scale to 2, because if we leave it to 10, it will be more frequently moving of these particles, and to 2 it will be slowing and looking better. Now let's test these particles and see how it looks like. And like you see, it looks beautiful. It moves and goes to the camera and then transition along with the camera, so it looks like it's part of the scene. Okay, now let's add some color to these particles, maybe little bluish, and after that we'll create some text for this scene 1. Text will be, for example, and let's add some subtext. Okay, now for the text, let's use some black, and for the subtext, let's use some bold, so it can be more noticeable. And now we will position the text for the Z space. Let's use 2 side views. And now some text, I will put it because you can always select the image to see where is the front image for this. And after that, some text, just a little bit here. And now if you move it, I see we must move this below the camera, because it will be, I think, just to see this, now it disappears here. So if we move it like this to the next mask, and if we now move it on the X, like you see, it disappear behind the image. So we'll position something like this. Here is where the mask is, so we will position it something like maybe this, and now subtext we will on the same, behind the same mask, and now like this. And now because the Z space for these two layers, some or subtext and text are not the same, when the camera move like this, you will see some parallax variation for these two layers, and it will be more interesting. Now we create text, and now when you go through the entire scene, you will see like text disappearing behind the mask, but this is not the case. Now I will select both of these and move it maybe like this, and now, well, it's barely noticeable. Let me try to move it more, and after that let's try to change the position X for the text, and now, like you see, is disappearing. So now when you render it, okay, I think it's all good. You can play around with it, and you can emphasize these hiding text effects. You can do that just with arranging the position of these two text layers. Just play around with it, and you can emphasize the disappearing and appearing on this scene. For example, if you move the text from this subtext behind like this and put it like here, and then when the movement, you will see more parallax effect on this two layer, and it look more interesting. You can play around it and find some solution that you find interesting to your eye. So basically that is the entire job on the scene, and now we will close the scene. We will go to main composition, simple parallax presentation, and after that we will select the scene 1 and drag and drop it here. Now we will select the scene 1 here and duplicate it, Control D. So we will rename it by hitting enter on the keyboard, and after that let's rename all of this scene like this. And now all you have to do is go to the 6 second and use scene 2 and drag and drop it right here. Now go to the 12 second and drag and drop this right here, and now go to the 18 seconds and drag and drop it right on the 18 second and 24 second, and so on until you arrange all the scene that you have. Of course, you can have as much scene as you want, just duplicate them. I will, for this example, use 8 of them. And now, like you see, the 8 of the scene makes entire 50 seconds of the main composition. Now, we have 8 scenes, but when you move down through the timeline, you will notice that all of these are this basically same images. That's because we duplicate the scene 1 to all the 8 scene is basically now the scene 1. So we will correct that by open scene 2, scene 3, and so on. Now we will select scene 1, scene 2, and we will now duplicate this image to 8 image. So we will create 8 image from this one. Let's rename it. Okay, now we have 8 images, and we will select in scene 2 all of this image layer, select this image layer. Now be sure that you select all of the image layer, and you have to select this image layer, and then hold the Alt key on the keyboard and drag and drop it on the timeline. And now, like you see, you change image 1 to change image 2. Do that for the next composition. Select change image 3, Alt key on the keyboard, and drag it and drop it. Use this for the scene 4. Drag and drop it here on the timeline. Use this for scene 5. Let's drag and drop it here, and scene 6. Seven and 8. Final image. Now, when we close all of this, again, when you go through the timeline, you will see that the same image appear again. That's because we now have to open these 8 images. Go to the image 2. Let's adjust and select the image 1, and then drag and drop it to image 2. Let's scale it down a little bit. OK. Select image 1, drag and drop it with Alt key again. That's one view, and let's scale it down again, like this. Select next image and drag and drop it with Alt key again and scale it up, this image, position it. Do that for the next image. And the next image. And the next image. And the last image. Okay, now we changed all of these 8 images, and now when you scroll down to the timeline, you will see something like this. So actually we now have main. Let's save the project now, and after that let's add some adjustment layers. So we will add one adjustment layer on the top of this composition. We will apply ellipse tool on it, just double click on it. Let's see what is the boundaries for this adjustment layer. Let's add some blur, fast blur. Okay, now let's subtract the mask and let's use F key to feather this. Let's repeat the edge pixels so we can remove this funny let's feather it just a little bit more, and then let's add some curves to it. You can be creative. Now you can maybe do something like this. Maybe you can even play around with this so you can change some value for the green, red, and blue, whatever you like. Okay, that is the blur. Now let's add another adjustment layer. We will name it grain. We will go to noise and grain. But first let's actually go to sharpen effects and add some, I don't know, maybe 8, so we can sharpen a little bit the final composition, and then go to grain and add grain. In preview, final output, choose to press it. I like codec vision, and for intense I like maybe that's 0.4, just a little bit noise. And we have now grain, blur, and after that let's add final adjustment layer. Name it CC, like color correction, and it will be our final color correction. So we will use, let's find one image and choose red, and you can be again creative with this. You can adjust it wherever you like. I will create something now, like you see, with or without. You probably have noticed lots of presentations are made this way. Basically, you can change the shape of the mask. You can set the circular or square mask. You can use anything you want. The technique is always the same. It's just the mask position to z-axis, so the camera do the trick. That's something that tricks our eyes and make the things look beautiful. So basically, that is it. You can play around it when you understand the principles. You can play around it and create your own slideshows. And I hope this was useful. If you find it useful, please like this video, and you can, if you have any troubles or any problem with applying this technique, you can contact us via comments, and we will be glad to respond and to give you some pointers. Okay, this was Alexander Judovic from Creative Lab, and until the next tutorial, stay well and bye.